Moving on, this is I made this li- I made this list of comparisons between circular mentality versus linear mentality. These are just 13 quick comparisons, but there's more examples on the website, and maybe we can go over extended examples on a different video. So while we're reciting this, I'm going over these points. Consider other examples of linear mentality and think about how we can integrate and empower circular values and understandings back into our lives and communities. So let's go down the list here. Quick juxtapositions here. So right here you see community well-being and responsibility oriented versus the linear individualism, right? Next we have understanding animals, land, and elements as relatives and teachers versus the linear quality of animals and land being viewed as resources and commodities. Next is the circular quality of generosity versus the linear Western quality of greed and hoarding that accumulates wealth and resources without regard for the well being of others. The circular value of balance and moderation takes only what is needed, avoiding extremes and assuring sustainability, versus the linear quality of excessive extravagance, which values excess, overindulgence, and waste as symbols of status or success. Next is the circular quality of understanding that God, so called God, and sacredness are everywhere. Divinity and sacredness are present in all life, places, and beings, versus the linear Western view is God being a white man in the sky, sky daddy, as they say, right? So perceives God as separate, hierarchical, and human centered, can only be accessed through the church or whatever. Next is understand that life is cyclical, recognize the cycle of life, of birth, growth, death, and renewal, versus the linear thinking of life is linear and final, views life as linear progression with a definite beginning and end. And this is also something, a good thing to kind of recognize when we're studying Indigenous history is that a lot of times people want to put a beginning and an end to what they consider Indigenous tradition, right? So once Indigenous tradition, let's say we came in contact with the Spaniards or vice versa, whatever, right? When things started to kind of shift and change and how to kind of readjust given the new people entering the hoop, the new people entering the circle, right? And creating disarray. A lot of times people assume or talk as if there's now an end to Indigenous tradition, which there isn't. It always perpetuates. That spirit perpetuates. All right, moving on. The next one is humility and interdependence. Acknowledge that no one exists in isolation and values the contributions of all, versus arrogance, which exalts the self above others, ignoring interdependence. Next is non binary thinking, embraces balance and interconnected opposites, versus the linear quality of binary thinking, which reduces complexity to good, evil, superior, inferior, and rigid dichotomies. We touched on that earlier. Moving on is collaboration minded and relational accountability. Seeks cooperative solutions and mutual accountability and maintaining harmony. Versus the linear quality of being competition minded, prioritizing winning, dominance, and self interest over collective well being. Inclusiveness, circular quality of inclusiveness, celebrates diversity and ensures that all beings and perspectives and roles are valued, versus the linear quality of exclusion, which marginalizes or excludes those seen as different or less valuable. The next is the circular quality of acceptance, welcomes reality as it is, focusing on adaptability and coexistence, versus the linear Western quality of possessive domination, seeks to control, dominate, and impose order on others and the environment. Next is intuitive heart-based knowledge, values, emotional resonance, and experiential learning alongside mental logic, versus the linear quality of the need for material proof and mental logic, relies on tangible evidence and intellectual reasoning, dismissing intuition and other forms of knowledge gathering. Sorry, this video cut off over here, but the next is gratitude and reciprocity. Express gratitude and gives back to sustain the circle's balance, showing respect, versus the linear quality of entitlement and freeloading mentality, expects rewards or benefits without contributing or recognizing interdependence and responsibility.